The rising spate of insecurity in the country has made a lot to really come up, and the polity seeming like a crucible that is being heated up, and how we can resolve this issue of insecurity becomes the concern of all and sundry. And today we're going to be looking at the Southeast Security Summit, which was held just on Sunday by the Southeast governors, and assessing the outcome. The Ebubeagụ security outfit was the product of that security meeting. And Ebubeagụ, as some say, means the fear of the lion. And so the security outfit will be taking an overview of the activities of the vigilant groups cutting across the 5 states. We have the Abia, Anambra, Enugu, Imo, Ebonyi, and looking at this bracket of states, there is need to tackle issues of insecurity in that region. We have that of the Southwest, which is Amotekun, and if we can also have the Ebubeagụ in that direction, a lot could be coming in terms of respite. Discussing this very sensitive issue with me, starting from my extreme left, I have a security expert, Reverend Sheriff Azeke. Thanks for coming, Reverend Sheriff.
Thank you very much, and good day, viewers.
As you know, much articulation is also needed along the political lines. We have a political analyst, not just a political analyst. He is a lecturer at University of Benin Political Science Department, and he is Neville Obakedo. Thanks for coming, Neville.
Good morning, viewers at home. ITV, thank you for having me this morning.
All right, I choose to start with you, the security expert. Now, we have this whole issue about insecurity, and we have the Amotekun in the Southwest. A lot of persons are also saying, well, appraising that outcome, there could also be lapses that need to be closed and gaps. Then now we just have the Ebubeagụ arising from the Southeast Security Summit held just on Sunday. Now, what do you make of this? Is this a welcome call or a welcome development or otherwise?
Well, it's a welcome development. And security is an issue for everybody. It's not for certain region. We can see right now that it's affecting every facet of life in our society. Initially, we're looking at it from the northeast. Terrorism in the northeast, and we thought that it cannot come down to the south, and we allowed the northeast people to handle it in their own way. Security is supposed to be a collaboration between the government and the citizens. Whether you are from the east, you are from the west, you are from the south, you are from the north, whether you are a Muslim, you are a Christian, you are whoever you are, it's a collective work by everybody. If it is happened to one person, the other person should not fold his hands. It does not come to my side, so it does not concern me. It is said one for all and all for one. It is already sweeping across the nation, and today we are talking about the Southeast.
Okay, I said that to say this. A lot of persons are thinking, what's the sincerity of purpose of this security summit? Is it going to be one meeting that will be later cut into shreds? What will be the collaboration of these states? How sincere are they? And is it not going to be a political talk that will also lose its power? Aren't you worried about that?
We are believing God that it should not go that way. It should not be politicized, because the time you begin to politicize security, you have damaged the whole system. When this issue came up initially, before now, they didn't see it as anything important. No, in Nigeria, yeah, we are never proactive when it comes to security issue. We want to be reactive. We want the whole thing to come into a play before we start taking action. The governors coming together a few days ago, like some people say it was late, but I think we will not say it is bad, because things have gone wrong in the East. They have to come together, and I pray they should not politicize it. They should make it the way they have said it. They should be more sincere in handling the security issue in the East, because the eastern part of Nigeria plays a very prominent role when it comes to Nigeria and the economy. The that time it happened in the northeast, and people talk, well, there's nothing much in the northeast. Let's allow them to solve their issue. It has come to the southeast now, and we should not allow it to degenerate. And we should not leave it in the hand of the easterners. It should be a collective idea. It should be a collective move by the government, by the people, whether you are from the north, whether you are from the, let us see how we can salvage the situation. Because if it happens in the north, in the southeast, like what happened in the northeast, it's going to affect our economy badly. Because in the east, that is our commercial hub when it comes to Nigeria.
Okay. There was a security meeting which was held in the southwest, and I remember vividly I had you on this platform, and to assess the outcome of that meeting. But now we have another meeting in the southeast, Imo State precisely, which happens to be the headquarters. Do you see respite in this direction, Neville?
I think
Neville, yeah.
The point of departure in assessing insecurity in Nigeria in general, and just now in the southeast, is to lay the blame on the table of the political leaders of our country, and in this context, the southeast governors. I'm working on a paper that have to do with security votes that governors in Nigeria collect. The list of security votes that a governor collects in Nigeria is 500 million, and that money is not being accounted for. So assuming the 5 governors of the southeastern states, they are collecting 500 million per month. 500 million times 5 states. You know how much that will give you.
That's in billions.
Now, the governors take this money, they don't account for the money. Nobody will question them about the money. Now, these same governors are the security officers of their state. You have police in their state, you have military formations in their state, you have prison service, you have road safety, all of them, they meet either every week for security meeting. What are they doing in the security meeting? One, the governor is supposed to distribute money to the security agencies that are coming for the meeting, that security meeting. They are supposed to gather information from those officers and men for the feed during the meetings, so that they'll be able to now tackle the issue of security or the security challenge in their area. Now, if you take a cursory look at the minutes of their meetings, if the minutes are available, you will discover it's just call them for meeting, give them food to eat. After that, what's the situation report? We had the other day on television, this happened in this place. We had no concrete determination by the governors about the security of their environment.
And no concrete follow-up.
Yes. Now, we are going to take it further. The purpose of the security vote by the crafters of the Constitution is for the governor to get this money and look at all the nooks and crannies of the state. If there's anywhere that like a trouble spot, flashpoint, look for people there and engage them, so that they will now have a sense of belonging to that government and help the government to succeed. Now, in a situation where somebody sits in Owerri, then Okigwe is there, Umbitoli is there, Umbise is there. The governor does not have any contact with anybody, even if the person is a member of his political party, that will be giving him security report and be directing him on how to tackle the challenges of security in that area. The governor will not organize security meeting on a monthly basis across the senatorial districts of that state. What they are doing is just a child's play. They are not serious about tackling security. Now, they're supposed to identify the causes of insecurity in that area and provide solution. Have they done that? Beyond the level of holding a meeting, we are having a summit. What they need to tackle insecurity in that area, they have not put it in place, and so they are joking. It's not only there. Now, the mark of calling security meetings, establishing a bubiabu, as you said, which is like
as it's been reported.
Yes,
Not as I said.
as it's been reported. Like you have Amoteku in the southwest and so on. This is a sign of state failure, because the security apparatus that we have in the country, it seems as if they are on holidays. Number one, because of the way and manner they recruit people, because of the way and manner they put people in positions, people are supposed to use their intellect, their determination, their nationality spirit to work and defend the country, even at the risk of their own life. They are not put in strategic position, either because they are not loyal or because of their of the part of Nigeria or part of the state that they are from. And so you see that everything that have to do with the security of this country, prosperity of the country, development of the country, is in the hands of the elite who are toiling with the lives and property of our people. Now, as a way of tackling insecurity in Nigeria and in the southeast, the governors need to deconstruct the security architecture of their state and reconstruct it by calling experts who will now not only deliver paper, but will now give them ideas on how to tackle insecurity.
Are you not sure that is what is ongoing?
That is not what is
because
ongoing.
It's one thing for them to have a security summit. It's another for them to also make plans, on the ground. But the challenge here, Sheriff Azeke, is that just why that security meeting went on, a few hours after the security meeting, just yesterday, we had an attack in Ebonyi. Yes. And there seemed not to be an end to these strikes, these attacks on Ebonyi State. Now, just like he said, he made mention of the security vote, which he says that no sincerity of purpose, if there was, these security votes cutting across these states, southeastern states, put together, will run into billions. And if they really do the needful, it will go a long way to really chase insecurity out of this region. Do you see that sincerity of purpose? Do you see the security vote as a way out in terms of the governors harnessing these whole ideas of ensuring that the region is safe?
The purpose of security vote is to make sure that security is well harnessed in a particular place. But unfortunately, we are not seeing the dividends of that purpose. It's like money is not being voted for security based on the reactions, based on the insecurity everywhere.
Don't you think this would be a different narrative?
Very well. Because if this money is well judiciously used for the purpose, to an extent, we will see the impacts, even from the security personnel. We will see the impact. Check the police, for example. Are they well equipped? The police is underfunded. You cannot tell an antelope to go and contest with a lion. These guys we are talking about, they are well equipped. But the people fighting to make sure that the citizens are protected, they are not well equipped. What about the security vote? And I want to say this moment. No matter what we say, no matter what we do, no matter the meetings that we have in different places, governors or whoever, if we don't go to the grassroots to address security matter from the grassroots, it's like turning water on top of a rock.
What do you mean grassroots?
Yes. We're supposed to know the factors that has to do with security. Okay. Because when we are not taking care of these factors, insecurity will be increasing on a daily basis. The people are hungry. A hungry man is an angry man. And when a man is angry, he is vulnerable to anything.
Okay, I think you are looking at the long-term plan. I think that's where the state governments will have to also look at ways to address it in terms of going to the grassroots,
yes,
which is ensuring that poverty is minimized, yes, if not eradicated, from these regions. But let's look at what you just said. You made mention of the firepower of the criminals, and being that they have these sophisticated weapons, so they may not be a match, for, as in the vigilance group may not be a match for the firepower that the criminals have. Now, don't you also see the laws also restricting the vigilance groups, from having so sophisticated weapons that will be seen as adequate resistance against these criminals?
Like the vigilante group, if you carefully watch what they are doing, they are not well equipped also. The highest thing they can carry is pump action in some areas. Most of them carry this double barrel.
But does the law certify that?
It depends. If like the double barrel. If before they carry the double barrel, it must be
You made mention of the pump action.
Yes, some of them you can see some of them with pump action, so they have been restricted.
Okay.
But let's call a spade a spade. You can't tell me to go and guide a place or defend certain persons, and the opponent, they are more equipped than me. I won't risk my life. Look at what happened to the soldiers that were buried yesterday. 12 soldiers were buried yesterday. What happened? They were just killed. And we keep on hearing our soldiers, gallant military personnel, dying every day. Why? Because these people, the opponent, they are more equipped. That's why we're talking about gun control. We have guns everywhere in this country. Our borders are porous. People are bringing guns like bringing tomatoes to the market. And we keep on talking it in television, in radio and the rest. But our borders have not been manned. The borders are too, I keep on saying, the borders are too porous. If you build a house and you don't give it a good fence, that house is vulnerable to attack. Nigeria is vulnerable to attack because our borders, especially the northern borders, they are too porous. Let's deal with our borders, because the more these weapons are coming, we have more weapons in the hands of civilians than in the hands of the military or security personnel. And as long as these weapons are in their hands, they don't have much to do.
Well, we can see what really transpired in Benue State. Samuel Otom even trying to really relay the sadness of the state government over what is really happening. A situation where a captain and 11 soldiers were killed in this. This happened again yesterday, where attacks were still on Ebonyi. Now, let's look at the synergy between security agencies. There seem not to be a synergy, or do you see the possibility of what can be done in terms of bringing about this synergy to fight insecurity? Neville.
First and foremost, the video I watched just now is very emotional to me, because I have family members who are soldiers, and I have friends who are soldiers, people from my community who are soldiers. I pray for them on a daily basis. And when I see videos of how they were brutally murdered, not in a war situation, but by criminals that have been created by the Nigerian state, criminals that have been empowered by security agencies that have been paid with taxpayers' money, I'm moved to tears even on a live television program like this. And I feel that we should take the matter of security very seriously. Let me start with the governors. As a governor, you are the chief security officer of the state. After holding meetings with security officers, maybe brigade commander, maybe commissioner of police, maybe AIG, there's nothing stopping you from even paying a visit to the barrack where soldiers stay and interact with them. You will get first-hand information. There's nothing stopping you from having a security network that can make people to give information directly. You dazzle your officers and men with information because you have created the opportunity for them to give information. Now, that is that. The next aspect of it is that government officials should not always believe and think that their security, maybe I'm the governor of the state, policemen are around me, I can call the brigade commander. What stop any other person from calling brigade commander? Yeah, I can call commissioner of police, they will just call with police. What stop any other person from calling commissioner of police? The security is not the security of only government officials, the governor, the deputy governor, House of Assembly members, other top government functionaries. The security is for lives and property. And if government continue to think that it is only when they themselves are secure that is when the society is secured, they are joking. And they are only laying foundation for more destruction that will come tomorrow. Now, we are hearing of guns being sold in the market like tomatoes and pepper. Yet, we have divisional police headquarters in almost all the local, in some local government, we have 3, 4, 5 divisional police headquarters in each of the local governments of Nigeria. What are they doing? They are sitting there in their police station for people to come and tell them, somebody fought me, somebody stole my property. Or they go and wait along the road. They are supposed to be constantly engaged in information gathering that have to do with security, so that they will know how to help government to fight security. What have you discovered? What you have discovered is that policemen, even some of them are watching me now because I've had a encounter with some of them in this state and outside. They will sit down when the case comes, they will look for how to get money from the people. Not all of them, but many of them. And in that situation, they will see the truth, they will cover it, they will not allow the truth to come out. And from there, they get money. You see a policeman whose salary is not up to 200,000. He will tell you the number of houses that he has built. You will see the kind of car that he's riding. It's not only police, so even in Ministry of Education, whether federal and their institution, people do that. And other aspects of our national life. But because security is what is affecting everybody, that's why we are discussing security, and that is why you come here. So, you also see soldiers. Very close to us here, you have a 7-Up here. I see soldiers that are supposed to be guiding 7-Up. Whether that is part of
but let's not
no,
divert.
let me finish.
Let's not divert.
I tell you, I was moved to tears just now.
We are not supposed to mention
they
any
will start on the road instead of guiding 7-Up. They will start on the road and be collecting money from
No. You seem not to be addressing the question I asked.
The question you asked me.
The question I asked you is, we have the challenge of collaboration in terms of the sister agencies.
Yes.
And we have these vigilance groups. Yes. And we have the police, we have the NSCDC, we have the armed forces per se. Now, how can these sister agencies also help the vigilance group in terms of arresting the ugly incident of insecurity in our regions?
Number one, there is no security agency that is superior to the other. And so they must share information sharing.
Yeah, intelligence gathering.
Yes. If we have vigilante group in my community or in Edo State, policemen should not see them as mere civilians. Soldiers should not see them as mere civilians. They are all Nigerians. You only chose to be a soldier, you chose to be a policeman, and I chose to be a lecturer. That does not diminish my capability of being a soldier. So if I'm a civil defense officer and you're a policeman, you're a soldier, and all of us are employed by the government of Nigeria to ensure that there's security in our land, we should work together and share information. And if there is another emergency outfit like the vigilante group that we are talking about just now, you should also work with them because they are only helping to complement your effort in your area of failure to ensure that there's security in the land. And when you are talking about security, it's not only security of people who are not uniform men. We see the way they are killing uniform men. So if sharing information will save your life and save the life of another person, why will you not share it? And so this is a very critical moment for Nigeria.
Okay.
And I believe that it's not only security agencies that are supposed to share information. Traditional rulers, some of them are first class traditional rulers, some are second class, some are third class, and on a monthly basis they get money from government, whether local government, whether state government, whether federal government. They should also take the matter of security, of this insecurity, seriously. And government should try as much as possible. The teeming youth of our society that are not employed, gainfully engaged, government should look for a way to engage them and ensure that the ungoverned spaces that we have everywhere where criminals will go and erect their structure and be operating coming from the bush to attack, lay ambush for against soldiers and security men and civilians. The government will put a machinery to tackle that.
There are gray areas. He just made mention of intelligence gathering and intelligence sharing. Now, this happens to be a very key component, you know, in terms of ensuring that security of the polity or the region is guaranteed. Now, you are a security expert. What do you see as the modus operandi that should be followed in helping the vigilance group under the Ebube Agu security outfit?
In terms of information gathering, which is intelligence gathering,
okay,
I think we should do more on that. And secondly, the government should be very sincere. Because when there is no sincerity in handling security matter, it will backfire. Because we've seen in different stages where the government will say one thing and they will do another thing.
But is it just the government?
I'm coming, sir.
Because we have the vigilante members themselves.
Yeah, because when we talk about security,
the vigilante members, most of them also know where all these criminals are.
The government is the father. Because without government being involved in security management, whatever you are doing, you can't go far. The government should start and empower whosoever. Because if the government does not empower or encourage the vigilante group, they can't do much. And secondly, we should do more on intelligence gathering. That's why we talk about community policing. This community policing, they keep on handling it as if it's like a child's play. All this while we keep on talking about community policing. We've come to this station to talk about it again and again. Nothing has been done. Because when it comes to community policy, it has to do with information gathering, that is intelligence gathering. Because it has gone beyond the uniform. It has even gone beyond the gun. Where we are now is gathering of information. If we have people who are trained, who are oriented and enlightened in terms of intelligent gathering, we will do more. Before anything happens, somebody is already aware, and there's already a trigger somewhere.
Okay.
But unfortunately, things are going bad every day. The ship is sinking every day.
We have the issue of the fifth columnists, taking a better part of the struggle to fight terrorist groups. I think we happen to be here in the country as a result of that. And now we understand even where some governors were saying that they're going to give names of those who could be seen as the fifth columnist. Now, don't you think by starting this group, this security outfit, Ebubeagwu, under 5 southeastern states, do you think it will also meet the bricks in terms of having fifth columnists, in terms of having some who wouldn't want to share intelligence? What do you think should be done by the government in terms of demystifying this challenge?
Ebubeagwu is a welcome development, like what I said. They will help to really enhance security in the southeastern part of this country. And if they come on board, we still talk about intelligent gathering. They should be encouraged. We talk about mentioning names of people who are instigating all these things, sponsoring all these issues. The government will tell you that we know them. But if you know them, can't you just mention them and prosecute them? We are tired of you telling us we know them. It's embarrassing for you to come up to the air and tell Nigerians, more than 200 million persons, that we know the people sponsoring Boko Haram. We know the people sponsoring these bandits. But you cannot do anything to them. It's a failure on the part of government. If you are the one sponsoring the person that wants to come and attack me, I should be able to attack you and bring you to the limelight. But you telling us that we know them, it's just making a foolery of the whole thing. It's a weakness on the part of government. That's why I said government should be sincere. You see, we need leaders who are courageous. If we don't have leaders who are courageous to say the truth, we will still have problems.
Okay.
We still have problems.
Okay. Nebila Bakado, you are a political analyst. Let's look at the political angle. How should government deal with some who may also be having a rapport with the criminals, getting information from the security outfit and giving it to the criminals? How do we filter this? How should government come into this? How do we identify such persons and exposing them?
The first thing that government should do is to take over the political space. When I say political space, Nigeria is divided into 774 local governments according to the constitution, and is divided to various political unit, federal constituencies, and the rest of them. On election day, you see security men everywhere in all the communities in Nigeria, even where you have terrorist attack when there's no election. On election day, election will take place there. So that tells you that the government knows what it's doing. Now, if the government is serious about tackling security, I said the government should take over the political space. As you have agents in all polling units, you have agents of all the political parties, you have agents in all political units. In every election in Nigeria across the country, the same agents are from the same communities. Why don't you use those agents to gather information from each of the communities? They will give you information, very vital information. They are not policemen. Okay. They are not vigilante.
They are not vigilante members.
But they are very useful for you to win election. Why would they not be useful for you to ensure that there's security in the land? That is an assignment for the political class. Now, people, the other day, I went to a particular community in Ovia North, this local government, while the issue of kidnapping on Bini Owo Road, Akure Road, Bini Auchi Road was assuming a threatening dimension. I visited some communities along the road with one or two of my friends. information that we gathered is useful for government. But if I put my paper now and write to government that I back on the research, this is the way you can tackle insecurity. Along this road, the area of kidnapping, along this road, along this road. If I don't have one-on-one direct contact with the governor to give him the paper, the governor may not see that paper. Because those that will read the paper, when they look at it, they say, oh, this man is having an idea to sell to government. So if this man is selling this idea to government and the governor sees this one, he may give him appointment. So this paper will not get beyond this level. I'm talking from experience. And so, in that situation, the government that is talking on television, talking on radio, I want to fight insecurity, will not do who these sponsors are, or the people sponsoring insecurity. They are joking. Because the speech that the governor may be delivering was prepared by maybe one of his staff. The facts on ground, he does not have it. And the opportunity for him to organize town hall meeting where people can give him idea, give him information, maybe during the town hall meeting, is those that are commissioners in the government that will be talking. It's traditional rulers who have access to the governor that will be talking. Those who are grassroots, who know what is happening, that would have given information, they will not be given opportunity to talk. So those that are in government, they are the problem of insecurity. They should solve it. I will give you an instance just now. When they want to recruit people, do you hear they want to go for NDA? They are calling people to come and go for the Nigeria Defense Academy. Do you hear when they want to take people to join direct sales service to the armed forces, whether Nigeria Army, Police, and Air Force and Navy? People in government will just bring names of their people who do not even have the mind of I want to go and tackle security. One, they want to solve problem of unemployment. Number two, they want to be making money. And so they are never concerned about insecurity. They are there. But those that are maybe below them may be concerned. But they are the people that will be drafted to go to the battleground, to go and fight. Meanwhile, their boss will give them instruction. Maybe contrary-wise instruction. They will go there and die. Like the video that moved me to tears just now. Now, if we want to tackle security, it is going to be an all-encompassing solution. Not just a political solution, without a solution that has to do with the way and manner we engage our personnel that are going to the field to go and fight. I was making an example just now because the example was too close for our comfort. You stopped me. A soldier that is carrying a rifle will be on the road and be collecting money from somebody. And you know you are there, the uniform alone is a message to the criminals. The gun is a message to the criminals. And you are there hanging the gun, you are collecting money from maybe a trailer driver, a bus driver. And somebody can gun you down and collect that rifle from you. Who just gun you down, collect the rifle and go to the forest and be using the rifle too. So a man who is carrying a gun, whether police, whether civil defense, all our security agencies that are carrying guns, they should know that the gun is not for fun. And they should always be on the highest alert. They should be on the highest alert. They don't need to wait until they are giving signals that there's likely going to be an attack in Benin. So be for security, not police station. Be for security, not army formation. Be for security, not civil defense formation. They should know as they are waking up, even in their own houses, they should know that they are vulnerable to attack because criminals may have traced them to their houses without their knowledge.
Okay.
So if we say we want to tackle this problem, it's not only a political solution, it's all-encompassing solution. And that includes me and you, traditional rulers, civil society group, market men and women. Everybody should be concerned about security. If we leave it for government, we are not going to succeed. And if government leave it for only security, they are not also going to succeed.
In case you're just joining us, it's TMI Tuesday, and I've been having a chat with Sheriff Azeke, security expert, and of course with Neville Obakedo, a political analyst and lecturer at University of Benin in Political Science Department. And he's been on the Southeast Security Summit, which was held on Sunday, after which they rolled out a security outfit codenamed Ebube Agu. And this security outfit basically is to help harness security in the Southeast region. And still on this issue, Sheriff Azeke, now we made mention of security vote, you know, as a way of also helping, you know, in terms of ameliorating the plight. Now, don't you think there should be a proper arrangement? Because we have the issues of the Bakassi boys, you know, after some time, after one political appointment and the other, they went off, they were no longer in existence, you know. Don't you think there should be a proper planning, not just funding from security vote,
but giving them a face that will be recognized by the federal government, where they will be under a payroll that will be properly documented, so that while one administration is leaving government and another is coming, they won't just discard his voice. Don't you think there should be a proper plan in that direction, Sheriff Azeke?
Very well. In America, there are two sets of persons that are well taken care of: the security personnel and the medical personnel. But in Nigeria, yeah, just check how the security personnel are well taken care of. You discover that there's no motivation. The morale is very low. So you are bringing another outfit to complement the ones we have. What are the plans on ground to institute this outfit? Not just reigning for now, but stand the test of time. Even after their expiration in government, the outfit is still strong.
After all, government is a continuum.
Yes, because if it is done by their own system, as they are going, the whole thing is going off. We should do it. We should not hurry to do it. And the recruitment system should be well done, so that you don't bring wrong people into the system and destroy the system. We're talking about intelligent gathering, because if you bring information to these people and they're not able to manage it very well, one of the problems the citizens are having is that mismanagement of information. They are even afraid to even give security personnel information, because they can use this information to go against them. Go to the street, go to the community, just do a kind of a survey work. A lot of Nigerians are afraid. Even when they see something, they say, when you see something, you say something. How many persons want to say something? It's just a mantra, it's a slogan. Nobody wants to do that.
How do you protect the whistleblower?
That is just
I think the whistleblower policy comes in here.
Just like my comrade said just now, I haven't gotten all this information. The problem is, how will I relate it to the governor when there are people in between? Because the security personnel should be trained on that, on information management. And when people bring information that will be useful in terms of managing security, they should manage it very well. They should not disclose their identity. Yeah. Because these things are going on every day, and people are afraid to, even when they see it, they don't want to say. The other day when there was jailbreak, these guys, they came out. The next day, there were robberies everywhere, to the point that somebody was robbed in the daylight. Everybody was just passing. This guy they tore his cloth, they dragged his money, he was shouting for help.
Not just somebody, several persons.
Several persons. People are just watching because they feel security does not concern me. The government should come in. That's why I said the government is the arrowhead when it comes to security. The government should take the lead. They should be sincere. I keep on saying that Nigeria issue is becoming, it's like a sinking boat. The whole thing is going down every day.
When
you watch the news, if the news is 30 minutes, 25 minutes all about security, insecurity. Yeah. And this insecurity issue is a diversion. It's a diversion.
Not just peculiar to Nigeria alone, anyway.
Yes, Nigeria,
it's a global issue.
Yes, it's a global issue, but Nigeria
only let's not take out Nigeria and make it a unique
we
case.
are talking about Nigeria. Leave other countries.
I know.
This is where we are.
But it's a global issue.
We know it's a global issue, but
we shouldn't feel a particular government is weak.
Let me tell you something. Okay. Presently, Nigeria is the third terrorized country in the world. You can agree with me. In terms of kidnapping, Nigeria is number one. Go and check your global index. In terms of kidnapping, Nigeria now is number one. When you talk about Afghanistan, what comes to your mind? Terrorism. But time is coming. If care is not taken, when you talk about Nigeria, terrorism will come up. And that's where they are trying to put us, which is very, very unfair.
Which doesn't help the economy to thrive.
At all. The economy is sinking also. It's sinking. And the federal government, I keep on talking about the federal government.
Well, we are not here to discuss economy because you are not the right person to discuss economy.
Yes,
so you can't say that the economy is sinking.
But let me tell you something.
We need some indices to be able to say that. We need some verifiable factors to be able to say that, which you don't have.
When it comes to economy, we don't need to bring experts to tell us whether the economy is doing well or not doing well, because we are feeling it. Even the ordinary person can feel it. I've traveled to some countries. You see the economy, you see everything is good. You can even feel, the common man can feel it. But here it's biting on everybody.
I'm feeling it.
You're feeling it, sir.
I'm feeling it.
You are talking about the hardship, the economic hardship. But that doesn't mean that the economy it's not improving.
Let me tell you,
You know,
sir. Let me tell- let
it
me-
gets to a
let me-
point.
let me-
You
let me
see,
It
get
gets to a
economic-
point
let me
where
qualify this.
we can say that
It's
it will
something that
affect the
starts
average
economy
now.
Nigerian,
let me say
the average
something.
citizen.
Let me say
So
something about security.
I said that to say this. We are bothered on security.
Yeah, let me say something.
Not on the economy.
Yes.
So let's stick to it.
There is no way you can talk about the economy without talking about security.
Of course.
Because economy cannot strive in the absence of good security.
Yeah, but we're not talking about the economy. We're talking about security.
Yes.
So we can talk about security without talking about the economy.
The government needs to be sincere, number one.
Okay.
Number two, the government needs to be proactive. Number three, the government needs to carry everybody along. Everybody should be involved. Whether you are PDP, you are APC, you are whatever party, everybody, when it comes to security issue, everybody should be carried along. And security vote should not be politicized, should not be handled in a criminal manner. It should be utilized. It should be utilized.
Okay, thank you.
It should be utilized.
Thank you.
Very, very
that
well.
reminds me, you said security vote is not accounted for. That means it's not budgeted for. Can you explain?
That is not what I mean.
Okay.
I'm saying that in every state budget, even federal government budget, the security vote is there, it's written there, and it's usually approved.
So it should be accounted for.
Yes, the reason why I say it's not those that are giving
It's not
security
accounted
vote,
for.
they don't account for it.
So that's where-
yes, when they are giving, they don't account for it.
Okay.
It's like take this money, go and use it to ensure that there's security in your place. You cannot now come back and say there was no security, so I did not use the money. Take the money. Are you getting it? If they give you like some governors, I know a state governor in south that is taking 900 million every month. I know a governor in south that is taking 2 billion every month. Like that. Now, you don't expect that governor who is taking 2 billion to come back at the end of the month and say, I did not spend this money on security.
It's
Take the
laughable.
money.
It's laughable.
So the
It has
money
never
is
happened.
like, yes, the
It
money
has
is
never
like,
happened.
take this money, then spend the money. Next month, another money is still coming to continue from where you stop. So now, the purpose of that security vote, governors should know it, the president should know it, local government chairmen should know it, that it is to ensure that there is peace and tranquility in your domain. Now, if you know that this is Edo State capital, you know that this Edo State capital is made up of Elvia Northeast local government, Ego local government, Bobaka local government, Donore local government, and part of Wode local government. Now, if you know that there is insecurity in the Ovia Northeast part of the state capital as a governor, what do? One, you have to reach out to the local government chairman, to the ward councillor, and even your political leaders in that axis. They will give you information. You'll be surprised about the details of what is responsible for insecurity in that area. The same thing is applicable to all parts of the state. Now, the problem that we have is that if they say the governor is the chief security officer of the state, those who are working with him, there are appendages to the chief security officer of the state. Like if you are commissioner for local government, you are working under the governor, and the governor is chief security officer. You are by extension like an assistant chief security officer to the governor of the state. You can give the governor information. But what I've discovered over time in my quest to be around those in government is that people are afraid when a man is appointed as a commissioner, the truth that would have told his boss, he will be afraid. If I tell the governor now, the governor may sack me.
Okay.
Is that appointment whatever? Whether they sack you or the tenure of the governor comes to an end, will you not leave the job? Why don't you give him the information and etch your name in gold?
Okay, but again, let's look at this issue of a whistleblowing policy, of which at a point you were a victim.
Don't let us go to.
Okay, no.
Let us go
Now
to that.
let's look at, because Reverend Sheriff Azeke said there is need to protect those who give information, in terms of intelligence gathering,
Yes.
so that they don't become a victim or suffer for giving such information. What's your advice to the government?
Yeah, that is a very good one. It's just like where I work, by the grace of God. I do not expect, for example, people will be taken as lecturers. Maybe 100 people are taken as lecturers in the university. I expect the university authority to organize an orientation program for them, to tell them about the condition of service, tell them about the rules and regulations, give them orientation that will make them to be responsible lecturers in that school. The same thing with non-academic staff. If you fail to do so, you are going to give the opportunity to be small G gods in their various offices. If you also recruit people into the Nigerian army as recruits, give them orientation. When they are posted, wherever they are going, the barrack they are going to be posted to, the area they are going to be posted to. The general officer commanding or the officer in charge or the commanding officer should give them orientation. Even though they are codified in Nigerian Armed Forces Act or the Army Act or the Navy Act or the Air Force Act, you still need to give them orientation because they are coming from outside. They are coming with their experience, everything. Yes. So when they come, you give them orientation so that they will now act in line with
to shape them.
Yes. So when you put people in position of authority in terms of security, you have to train them and constantly retrain them and give them orientation. Number one, on how to gather information and manage information. If you fail to do so,
training and retraining.
Hey, I'm a policeman, I'm a soldier, giddy. People will just be looking at you and be laughing. Even when death is looming the horizon around you, they'll be looking at you. If at the beer parlor, they'll be like, this one no say death don't come now. Because the way you entered the force, you were not purged of the character that you came in with. And so you feel that being a force man is to lord it over those who are not force men. You miss the mark. Because a fellow force man is not the one to give you vital information that can help you to carry out your duty. It is somebody who is not a force man that will give information. So when the person becomes your enemy, by virtue, maybe by virtue of the training that you receive or by virtue of the frustration that is going with your job, you will not get information.
And this is the core of community policing.
Yes. So even the other day, the state government recruited persons, trained them, and sent them out as a community, yes, police personnel. I expect, for example, the government to do more than that by organizing town hall meeting, where, for example, there's a town hall meeting for a donut. If the governor cannot do it on a local government by local government basis, it will be like a security town hall meeting, where all security personnel will be present, including those community police officers. Where people will be called, not necessarily the governor will just be talking. Let people come and deliver paper.
So it can be localized.
Yes.
When you're saying that it can be localized in the various local governments.
Yes. Then, in that process, the people that will come, maybe villagers, dowdus of various quarters and communities, they will take something home. And they will give them phone numbers, WhatsApp numbers, and maybe internet IDs that they can send information to, where their identity will now be protected. That is missing, and we need to do that.
Okay.
And just let me quickly add.
That's sacrosanct.
Yes, let me quickly add that when you are saying that we are discussing security, we are not discussing economic matters.
As a way of digression.
Yes.
Okay.
What we are discussing is security. People are merchants of insecurity. People are the ones, they have a network. You will be surprised when the network is broken into. You discover that people from this Edo state, they may be working with criminals, bandits, kidnappers, from Zamfara state, from other places. When you break into the network, you'll be surprised. And that's the political economy of insecurity. So you cannot discuss security without talking about economy.
The economy.
Because even the insecurity is strengthening the economy. And I also agree just now that I'm also feeling the hardship that is
thank you very much for that enlightenment. I said that to say this because for every discussion we have the right pegs in the right holes, and I didn't want us to talk about economy using figures that are yet to be verified, and that was why I had to quickly stop you on that.
We agree with
I apologize if that hurts your sensibilities. Okay, now let's look at the way forward as we wrap up. We look about, he spoke about training, which is key, training and retraining. I just want to believe that it's in the list of what the Southeast governors plan to also do for the Ebubeagụ, and we just want to see how it will dovetail to Edo State Vigilance Group also. What do you see in this area of training and retraining?
I wrote a memo on training and retraining of security personnel, and I handed it out to some security officers. Because the more we train our people, we should not just focus more on the gun, on how to use the gun. They should be trained on more on intelligent gathering.
Okay.
Very, very important. In Israel, that's what they do. Before you cough, somebody have already known what they can interpret your cough. Even a little child can look at you and interpret much about you without carrying the gun. So if the government would train people for security work, they should do more on intelligent gathering. It's very, very important. Even the
use of ICT tools.
Yes, we are talking. I will talk about using technology to handle security matter, because we are far behind when it comes to using technology to address security issue. Look at the way our soldiers are being killed. Many of them, they have no business in the bush.
Like manning aircraft, which is supposed to be powered by drones.
Many of them have no business in the forest. You just man aircraft. These drones.
Yes,
to
deploy drones.
You can be in your room and you monitor everything.
And that will reduce casualty.
That is just it. Because we don't use technology to address insecurity, we keep on having casualties every time. Let's address insecurity using technology, high-power technology, to address it. Then community policing is not community police, but community policing. Everybody should be police.
Yeah, it should be everybody's business.
Yes, policing is everybody's business. It's not about until you are recruited, you put on the uniform. I'm a police, you are police. The first police of your life is you as a person. If you cannot police yourself, the police you see on the street cannot police you. So we should teach the people on how to police themselves in terms of sensitization. Like what he said, we have community programs, which we are presently doing.
Okay.
We have community programs, we involve everybody in the community, we sensitize them, we orient them, and give them the nitty-gritty of security.
Beautiful.
So because when they have this understanding, arm them with security knowledge, when they are knowledgeable in terms of security,
give them direction.
It will be very, very difficult for an intruder to come to a community without the indigene knowing what is happening. These are the things that we must do. And we must also spend money in security. We should spend money where money is needed. We should spend money in security. We should not handle.
Okay, but again, this challenge of if even the members of the vigilante groups,
yes,
localized in the sense that sometimes we don't even know them.
That is just
in our residential places.
Somebody can just come up and say,
isn't it a challenge? Because by the time you give such persons guns or firearms, and you don't know them, you can't trace them from Adam. Isn't that even riskier?
It's very, very
if
risky.
I must use the word.
It's very, very risky to
Is it not more risky?
It's very, very risky to see people you don't know protecting you.
Okay.
They can turn against you.
Okay.
Before you raise up a security outfit or a vigilante in a community, there should be a community meetings where these people will be introduced to the community, and they should be known that these are the security vigilante people in my community.
And they should also have their data with the police.
Yes, they should have it. They should work.
What's wrong with that?
They should work pari passu with the police. As a vigilante group, you can't work on your own. You must be connected with the police. Your own is to assist the police. It's not to be on your own.
All right, thank you.
It's very, very important.
Thank you so much. Your final words on this, Neville Obakeno.
My final word is that the Southeast governors that just headed their summit on Sunday, and they came up with a Bubeagu. They should match their words with action by releasing part of their security vote to ensure that the entire Southeast is secured. And any criminal element, whether the person is from Southeast or whether the person is a foreigner or somebody, an alien who came to settle in that place and is doing business there, the person should be apprehended and be dealt with according to the provisions of the law that govern that area and the federal law.
Thank you.
Let me use this also as a point of sending a message to those in government, whether Southeast, Northwest, North Central, Northeast, South, and Southwest, that we are having a very serious situation at hand. We should try to solve and tackle this problem now. Otherwise, I'm not a pessimist, and I'm not a doomsday prophet. Otherwise, Nigeria will be gravitating towards Afghanistan, Syria, and Iraq put together.
Thank you very much, Nebilo Bakedo, for taking our time to be part of this show. And big thanks, Sheriff Azeke.
Thank you very much.
Do you have closing remarks?
Yes, Nigerians, we should be more security conscious.
Okay.
Anywhere you are, just be security conscious. Be intelligent with what is happening around you. And coming together as a team, we can address this monster called insecurity and tame it and put it where it belongs.
All right, that's where we call it a wrap on the discussion. I think fighting insecurity should be everybody's business, and a lot has been said here. We'll see how that goes as the day progresses. Stay with me, it's still TMI. Don't you go away.